.72 caliber? Are you kidding me? In a pistol? Your typical British brass barrel flintlock blunderbuss of the mid-18th century period. We're gonna fire one of these. So welcome back, everybody, to another episode, and wow, we're in season 3. Can you believe this? Well, normally we'd say, what's on the tray today? Well, it's more like what's on the table today. So Josh and I have been talking about we have to find the right weather window to go to a rather exclusive opportunity to use a private property gun range. And what better opportunity to teach you all the ins and outs about how to fire one of these things in a proper setting. I'm getting all excited about it because it's been a while. So we're going to talk about some of the largest flintlock pistols ever produced by a military. This is the Danish model 1772 pattern, 13-inch barrel, 72 caliber. Are you kidding me? In a pistol?
Yeah, huge.
So I figured you could probably just jump right to the front of the line and fire one of the biggest ones. Also, here is your typical British brass barrel flintlock blunderbuss of the mid-18th century period. We're going to fire one of these. Actually, we're going to fire this one.
Oh, all right.
And then this is a French model 1763 Charleville Flintlock Musket. Now, this was one of the staple muskets that was used right alongside of the Brown Bess musket during the American Revolutionary War.
Wow.
And this particular musket has a lot of production history. This actually was used in the first movie I worked on, which was Last of the Mohicans with Daniel Day-Lewis. So this is kind of a blast for the past. For me, it just brings back a lot of these memories. But we're going to fire all of these out there.
Oh, finally.
So, let's kind of go right back to the beginning and let's talk about the pistol.
Let's do it.
So you will notice this thing, after you fired it, it could be used as a club. And that's the way it was designed. And believe you me, you would not want to be on the business end, either one of the business ends of this. This is just an insanely massive pistol, and it weighs a lot.
Yeah, and for those watching, this is a heavy flintlock. I mean, more so than anything else that that typically we handle. I would say this has got to weigh all of 8 pounds?
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe me, we have a bore gauge here. And Tony will come in and zoom in right here. Can you get in on that? You can see where just the notch up, we're going to be at Brown Bess, musket caliber at 75. So, I mean, this is no joke.
Wow.
But these are incredibly well-made guns, and parts and pieces have been found at archaeological sites in New England. So I don't think a lot of them were used during the American Revolution. But when you find, parts and pieces of the furniture at the dig sites, you're like, well, maybe they were. So it's a head scratcher.
Yeah.
Because mostly what you find are your traditional French and British parts.
Sure.
Now they used a myriad of other countries' weapons, from Holland, and that's what makes the weapons in the colonies so interesting to me, because they didn't waste anything. So you could have a lock from a British musket, a barrel from a French musket, the furniture from a Dutch musket.
Yeah.
And the Americans went, well, all this is good stuff. We'll just throw it all together in a weapon that we're going to make and get it out there.
That makes sense.
Now, this sounds all well and good because, again, they were under tremendous stress because they had a lack of weapons to fight one of the most formidable military forces on the planet at the time, which was the British military.
Yeah.
Their naval power was the most superior on the planet. So here's this fledgling group of colonies going to King George and going, nope, we're not going to pay your taxes. We're not going to do this anymore. That was, in a sense, our real first Civil War, because you had, a division in those houses of, hey, we want to be a loyalist, and no, we want to rebel. And so I don't know, the American Revolution and how our country, came to be is so fascinating.
Yeah, it really is.
So anyway, I'm going off on wild tangents on the history part of it, but that's just part of the illness of collecting and studying this stuff. Aside from the caliber, aside from the construction, the locks I am so impressed with.
I was gonna say,
they're so robust and they're so well made, and that's one of the reasons why I don't have too much reservation about. And again, I want to be clear.
Now, if you love all the content that you're seeing here, and you're like, I gotta get more, I wanna see behind the scenes.
Here we are. Finally. We're in a undisclosed private location up somewhere in the mountains in California.
Well, head over to Patreon. That is where we're going to be showing first looks, behind the scenes, unboxing videos. Might even see some stuff for sale on there that you might not see anywhere else, and find us going to really cool places. So once again, head to Patreon. I'm Josh. This is Sean. See you there.
Take care, guys.
Oh, I can't wait to see that, Tony.
I do this in a professional setting as a demonstration for, you'd never want to fire a real antique weapon unless it's in one of these conditions where, I know what we're doing here. And people will also say, well, some of these things are extreme rarities. Why aren't you wearing white gloves? And don't worry, guys. After I touch every one of these things, everything gets preserved, wiped down, put back in its bed in the vault, and preserved so it's not going to rust. So we are free to handle these things.
Great.
Covered the pistol, and boy, what was it? It was so difficult for me to choose one.
Yeah.
Out of all the different ones that I could, in a sense, okay, hand this to you and go, this is the first flintlock you're going to fire.
Yeah.
I figured, why not this one? And then again, the blunderbuss. Everybody has heard the term blunderbuss, but is that something Elmer Fudd was carrying around going after Bugs Bunny?
Right, or it almost even sometimes feels like it's something that was made up for movies. You know, you never see these in film.
Very rarely. Yeah, and they never really focus on why they were so important. So we're going to answer those questions about how about that?
Yeah.
Well, look at what I can do right here.
Yeah.
Versus picking up a musket.
Sure.
Okay. For close quarter combat, and again, not of all of us have been on a sailing ship before, but I'm going to try and paint that picture. They're a lot smaller than you think.
Yeah.
And the yardage of open space that you can move around on.
Yeah.
Just without any kind of conflict.
Right.
Is challenging. You've got ropes, you've got all sorts of stuff going on, you got other people doing their tasks. So when hostilities did break out, you wanted to have weapons that you could use in close quarter combat fighting. And going through those little doorways in the ships, you wouldn't want to have a musket.
No.
You would end up clothes hangering yourself.
Of course.
So you would want a blunderbuss. And, the other reason why these were so versatile, a true blunderbuss, the interior of the barrel will flare outwards. A traditional gun barrel has a consistent straight bore all the way from the breech to the muzzle. So a true blunderbuss is going to flare out. Now, we did testing on the show I did with National Geographic called Lords of War to demonstrate exactly that. If we loaded a blunderbuss with BBs, would those BBs stay in a pattern as they're traveling out of the barrel, or over the length of the field until the target, would that pattern spread out? So we had a 4x8 sheet of plywood with dozens and dozens. I'm going to say eggs.
Yeah.
Well, we're in an egg shortage right now. Well, back then we were not. So we had all these eggs on this sheet of plywood, and each BB that penetrated an egg showed the pattern. And I forget the distance. It was probably like 20 yards.
Okay.
But that pattern had expanded like 3.5 feet.
Whoa.
In 20 yards.
Wow.
So basically where I'm going with this is if you are shooting one projectile, you're going to hit one target.
Sure.
If you're shooting multiple projectiles, you can not only hit your intended target, but maybe some surrounding targets.
Sure.
And as long as you had powder and a good flint, you could basically shoot just about anything out of this.
Makes sense.
Glass, rocks, nails, lead shot, one big ball, which I don't know.
Yeah.
That's where I kind of draw the line.
Yeah.
These are more designed for scattering.
Sure.
And with a tapering barrel, you wouldn't want to put a large projectile because it could get wedged in place.
True.
And that could be catastrophic. Now you just got a big pipe bomb.
Yeah.
Not good.
Not good. Well, and two, I immediately go to the thought of two ships rocking and rowing in the ocean. Trying to get an accurate shot with one of these already on stable ground is not easy, especially at distance. Having something like that would be, maximize your efficiency.
Oh, yeah. Well, and let's not forget, sure, in a time of war, it was, of course, you want to eliminate your enemy.
Yeah.
Or at least cripple them to where they're going to disengage and, run up the white flag. But think about the days of privateering where you had a letter of marque to, take some other country's vessel as a prize. So where I'm going with this is how do you, from ship to ship, engage in a naval battle when your intention is just to capture the ship, not to sink it?
Yeah.
So how do you do that? Well, those of you who saw the movie Master and Commander, they have fantastic drills on their cannon crews. Now, you want to talk just like what you said.
Yeah.
Ships that are rocking and bobbing and weaving.
Yeah.
And you're coming, on a broadside, ship to ship. And right at that right time, they're all going to, release hell.
Yeah.
Well, some of those cannon crews, they're looking to disarm and cripple the opposing vessel. So they're going to be shooting for the mast.
That makes sense.
If they can cripple the main mast, the ship is done. They're going to raise their colors and be like, okay, game over.
Yeah.
You win.
Yeah.
And that's all they were trying to do because they want to capture that other vessel and all the contents of what that vessel's carrying, which, oh my God, if that had a huge amount of treasure on it.
Right.
So, there's lots and lots of different weapons for different purposes. Now, did they use muskets on the ships? Yes. But you also have to remember that they were transporting land regiments. I mean, how did you get a land regiment to another land?
Right.
Well, they had to go on a ship.
Yeah.
So while they were on ship, they were under command of the captain of the ship. So if they needed to be put into action, they would. So it's
Makes
interesting
sense.
when you see like all these naval officers and then a bunch of British regulars that are not really supposed to be there.
Yeah.
You're transporting them. So I don't know. This is going to be a lot of fun. And if we have time, a couple of you have mentioned, actually quite a few have mentioned, a lot of the stuff here that is surrounding us. And in particular, there is a swivel cannon right behind Josh that is just begging for some attention.
Shoot it.
So I think that we should also have an episode that is dedicated to the swivel gun.
Yeah.
And why it was so versatile and so important. And just to kind of give you a little bit of the highlights, look at it. The size is something you could grab and easily run to another position and set up. Unlike the larger cannons, which that big one down there, it's gonna take a couple of guys to lift that thing, and it's gonna take time to set it up again.
Right.
So, but the smaller ones, man, did they pack a punch.
You know, look like it.
And those were designed to really clear the decks. You know, deck sweep.
Sure.
And we might have to demonstrate that.
I'd like that.
So stay tuned. Okay, guys, I could just ramble on and on and on about this stuff, but I much rather put it into Josh's hands to just start asking questions.
Yeah. So I sell a lot of these and we go to a lot of shows, but I've never had the real chance to ask you some real deep dive questions. Yeah. So, first off, I know a lot of people are going to be curious. We talked early on about calibers. And, if it was me, especially in today's day and age, it's very smart to have one bullet for all your carry. So, something that's chambered for 9mm, be great to carry, all of your pieces carrying that round. So
imagine that.
Seeing the bore of a pistol that also matches maybe what you're carrying as your long gun would make all the sense in the world.
Okay, and I'm so glad that you brought that up because I was mentioning before, especially during the American Revolution, where there was a shortage of weapons, and the gunsmiths at the time were just taking any available parts and pieces and just reassembling them into kind of these Frankenstein guns, which I love because you could have 10 different countries all represented in one weapon.
Absolutely.
And it also goes to show the desperation of the colonial military at the time. But this created chaos on the battlefield. Just to your point, this takes a 72 caliber round projectile.
Right.
Okay. But if you were also equipped with this 69 caliber musket,
yeah,
the only ammunition that I would carry is the 69 caliber ammunition because it could still be fired out of this.
That makes sense.
But you can't go the other way.
Right.
Because what goes in here would be too big for here.
Sure.
Rendering this weapon useless.
Yeah.
So and this did transpire after the Revolutionary War to then have weapons that were not so much unique.
Yeah.
They wanted not only a weapon to fire the same caliber ammunition across the masses, but they wanted muskets and pistols with interchangeable parts. Yep. This was a new concept because all the previous weapons were handmade. And again, I can't stress enough, with no electricity, so it was either candlelight or sunlight.
Yeah.
That's it. And by hand.
Wow.
So getting to that point, and this was when our fledgling new country was going to start making its own weapons, we copied the French. So the French 1763 Charleville was the pattern model for our first United States musket built at the Springfield Arsenal or Harper's Ferry.
Yeah. Wow.
And when you put them side by side, you can see why they liked this design. But they didn't really dial it in.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't just take a lock from another musket and just slap it on.
Right.
They had to be little modifications, but they were getting close.
Yeah.
But again, getting out onto the battlefield and all these different calibers.
Yeah.
That's a disaster. And you'd think they'd have their act together.
You'd think.
But here the same problems repeated themselves.
Right.
War of 1812, the Mexican-American War in the 1840s, and then the Civil War.
Right.
You had, again, shortage of arms. You had foreign military imports coming in, different calibers. What happens when you run out of ammunition for that particular weapon? And let's say that whole regiment has that particular weapon.
Right.
And you run out of ammunition for that gun. Now what do you do? So, yeah, lot of stuff too. Oh my God.
Yeah. So now I'm painting the picture for the time. Let's say we, jump right into the Revolutionary War. Now, would the pistols often be carried mostly more, at least in the army itself, more by officers, or anybody could carry one?
Well, assuming there were enough pistols to go around,
Sure.
they were designated for the officers.
Okay.
And the officers would have a pair. and they would be in holsters right in front of their legs on horseback. This is the heavy cavalry. So there'd be a pair on either side of the neck of the horse. And again, it makes sense for balance, but wouldn't you want to have 2 shots as opposed to just 1?
I would.
So, and you're on horseback. You could use them as clubs, whatever.
Yeah.
But your infantry regular musket, maybe a sidearm, as far as a sword or a couteau.
Yeah.
Very small sword. But basically, it's the musket and the bayonet.
Gotcha.
And of course, your cartridge box, powder cartridges,
Yeah.
maybe a fighting knife.
Yeah. So would you say that maybe that's why we find so many of the Flintlock pistols from the time in a little better condition? Because maybe they were less used regularly in
Absolutely.
fight? Okay.
Absolutely. And there were less of them.
Yeah.
And when I say less of them, I wasn't there when these things were made. I mean, you go by population reports based on what books say, and you can't always believe a book.
Yeah.
They're just going on, recorded data. But I look at it as, well, oh my God, there's 3 of these sitting here right now. And it's because somewhere along the line, these were put away and preserved. And then they came back out again and out onto the collector's market. So you never know what you're going to find.
Yeah.
But you also have to understand, I've been collecting for 40 years.
Right.
All over the world, chasing this stuff down. So, today and again, I have to say, guys, this is chasing the coattails of what we're talking about regarding population of this type of material that still exists out there. We just had devastating wildfires.
Yeah.
In Los Angeles. And I know personally of many, many collections that are now destroyed forever. And some of these collections held one-of-a-kind items that belonged to Napoleon that are now gone forever. So despite floods, fire, theft, these things are disappearing and getting destroyed every day, every year. So I don't know how much of this stuff still survives.
Yeah.
It looks like there's a lot because we're surrounded by it, but this is a 40-year accumulation.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going to go to any gun show and find tables and tables of this stuff.
Well, on top of that, look here on YouTube. Tell me how many other pages have this much kind of concentrated stuff. I mean, there's a few guys out there that are doing it, but I mean, we're hopefully that one-stop shop where you get to see a lot of this stuff. And that's why we want to keep telling these stories to preserve that history.
Yep.
So,
and we're going to go off on wild tangents, or at least I will.
Oh yeah. Well,
because it's all up here. It's got to come out.
Well, I would love to go shoot this stuff. We're going today? Do we have time today?
I think so.
Okay. Well, let's take a little road trip. Let's pack some of this stuff up and let's let these relics of history do the talking.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
It's time.
Yeah.
They've been dormant long enough.
Well,
time to blow out some of the cobwebs out of here.
Yeah. Literally. Well, join us. We're going to take a quick little drive, and hopefully you'll enjoy what we're going to do as much as I'm about to enjoy it. So we'll see you out there.
You're going to lose your mind.
I know I will. We'll see you soon.
This is my go-to weapon. This has been used on several movie sets and television, and it's just one of those old reliable. Let's just put it that way. So we're going to test this out. You ready for this?
Oh, I'm ready.
First time, ever shooting a blunderbuss. It's huge.
I can't wait. Are you guys ready? Let's check this out.
Man,
Hey, Mr. Postman.
that feels real good.
History Roundtable, an all-new season. Don't forget to like and share your favorite episodes. And to learn more about the artifacts on the show, visit tortugatrading.com and commodorecoins.com. Till next time.